Welcome to Crimson Guitars. This video is part of our ongoing series on how to build guitars and general workshop tips and tricks. And today we're going to be making a cam clamp. Well, 6 or 7 cam clamps. I find myself in need of several with deeper jaws in order to do a couple of bridge repairs. Some acoustic guitars have had their bridges lift, as is their wont, and I find myself without the necessary tools. Now, these clamps have been around for many years and they are beautifully simple. It is literally, well, it's, as you will see, very easy to make. I hate people that sprinkle the word literally in every single sentence. All you require is some steel to act as the pivot point which locks the top piece in place, some quarter sawn wood. In this case I'm going to be using some mahogany, and it needs to be quarter sawn on that angle because that is obviously where the tension is going to be put on your clamp, and then a couple of screws and nails and a bandsaw, and that is it. It's well, as I said, it's simplicity itself, and that is behind all of the best designs in the world. Simplicity. So let's talk about the basics. Obviously, if you know what a cam clamp is, you know what a cam clamp is, but here we go. It's got that, so the cantilevered effect, and that is what locks it up. I'm basically going to be using this cam clamp as a template of sorts, although it's shorter than what I require. The dimensions of the other sections are pretty much spot on. So I go like so. After bandsawing the basic shape of the clamps, it's time to attack them and get the final shape with the drum sander. Having finished shaping each one of these pieces, the time has come to mark out where I'm going to be cutting for the steel bar. If I line them all up nicely, let's see how much I can do production line styly. There we go. That's one I've marked out previously. I'll use my finger as a depth stop, and if that goes on either side, that gives me a 6mm by 40mm slot. While I'm busy marking things out, I'm going to mark the cut in the top section of my clamps, just to make it easy. I'm going to make it an even depth. There. Now, at the end of the cut, you have to drill a hole. You can see it in our example piece there. That is so that when you are clamping something down and putting pressure on that lip section, the hole stops the rest of the wood splitting down here. And if you forget it, you will destroy your clamp, it will break. While we're here, that there is a bit of steel to also stop this section splitting, and is also very important. After having marked out the 4 holes that we need to drill, we start drilling. Those are the locking pins that will lock the bar as it clamps. That's to stop it splitting up that way, and that is where the cam will be pivoting against. And it's easier to do this obviously on a pillar drill. This is a small bench one or a big one. Yeah, you have to be square. Now I've set up this little router effectively as a table router. It needs to be very securely fitted in my bench, and there's a fence on it and a perspex base, or I suppose it's the top now. Now this is going to route out the top section where the cam fits, because you can see it doesn't go through the bottom, so we need to be a bit clever with that. The router bit is set up to be centered, and I feel that I've got more control when the router is set up like this. I can hold it with one hand, I can hold the piece with several other hands. I have 3 hands, you know, and I've got lots of control. I'll take the cut in 3 or 4 cuts. The time has come to bandsaw away all of the extra little slits. Now this is where the steel will go, and obviously that one, and again, let's make some noise. Time to do some more drilling. There is a steel rivet in our template piece, the commercial clamp, and that is there to stop the wood splitting either at that weak point or at that weak point, and it's just behind where that hole is. I've marked out the positions with my little bradawl, meet Jessica, most useful tool, and we now go to the pillar drill. You absolutely have to wear eye protection at this stage. I'm going to be gluing the little round billets into the holes, and the last thing you want is super glue in your eyeballs. I know this because I am a fool who has had super glue in his eyeballs on 2 occasions. It doesn't dry, it sits on the surface of your eye and stays nice and wet until you blink, if you're stupid, at which point your eyelids fuse together. I luckily avoided that, but yes, you don't want that to happen. So you dab a load of super glue or cyanoacrylate in the hole. little bit more filing. And our strengthening rivet, as you can see, just in line with the back of the cut there, is done. Okay, time to cut up the steel bar. Never forget to wear protection, goggles, and these are the best ear defenders I found, or at least the most comfortable. They were made for shotgun enthusiasts. They obviously get a better treatment than poor woodworkers. Anyway, let us make some noise and sparks. The time has come for the cam. Now I'm making this out of some maple I had floating around. Obviously my design is slightly different from the straight boring commercial option. I don't know, I'm a guitar builder, what can I say? Now as you can see by the shape, obviously where the hole is off center, and as you pivot around that point it gets thicker and thicker at the contact area. I'm sure that you already know this, seeing as you're watching a video about making cam clamps, but I shall treat everybody as an idiot and equal. So that's what that's going to look like, and effectively just with a temporary pivot point there, as you push it gets bigger and it squeezes that in, and there is your clamping option. Now I've made this one as the template, done a little bit of experimenting to get it right, and the time has come for mass production. We'll mark them all out and go back to the bandsaw. Pretty much all of the basic work has been done now. It's just time to finish everything off and make these things pretty. I'm going to be using them for the rest of my natural working life, so there's no point in doing it by half, is there? On to the final stages now. We've got our fairly rough carved bits and pieces. That's going to be nice and comfy inside the guitars. And obviously we require some fine finishing. This is just 150 grit sandpaper. I know there's absolutely no reason to sand the inside of the slot, but I don't know, I'm a perfectionist. As I sit here sanding this, I'm just thinking about ways to make it easier to make, obviously. The only bit that's particularly difficult or dangerous is the way I routed out the section in which the cam will be sitting. Now, another option would be for you to cut the slit all the way down through here to about there, which obviously will weaken this section, and what you'd have to do is then glue that section of wood on and reshape it. So I'll try and do that a bit closer. Cut all the way through like we did there, and then glue on a separate section on the bottom, which will then give it the strength it needs, and that way you will only need a bandsaw to make these. This is the better way, but well, there we have it. This is a tutorial. I shall give you options. Sandpaper. I'm going to use a couple of coats of Danish oil as our initial finish. It's less toxic than teak oil and a little bit thinner. As a general rule, I tend to thin out my oils anyway with white spirit. It makes them go further, but it also helps the penetration. Now, the cam is going to be rotating in this cavity on a nail, and those nails are 3mm in this case. Now, the trick is to drill this hole out at 3.2, which means that the cam will rotate nicely. So let us start putting the nails in. Now these ones go either side of the steel. I'm putting the steel in to strengthen that, because if you just hammer into that, it will probably not break, but it wouldn't be happy. So that goes through. And I still have movement there. That will do nicely. Obviously I still have some nails to chop off and tidy up later. That could be a rather dangerous clamp. We've got to fit the steel bar to the bottom section. I've just cleaned up the edges on the ends on a big disc sander. And this is going to be permanently fixed in. Now I'm using the same pins as before. Pins, nails. And again, I've had to drill a 3.2mm hole through the steel. obviously we'll need some more finish in the end. I will be using this as the cushion that is here. On commercial ones, on the commercial clamps, it's a little piece of cork, but well, we can definitely do better than a little piece of cork, can't we? It will fit there quite nicely. You've got to make sure to key up the surface that there's no oil left on there. And I'm just using good old super glue, quite thick super glue, admittedly. Now, as a guitar builder, I can't help but try and improve things, and what I've got here is a thin strip of cloth-backed sandpaper, 80 grit, and I'm going to glue that along this section of the cam. Good old super glue. And effectively, while this is a non-standard option, it will make the cam grip much better and just give you a little bit more control over the exact amount of pressure that you are putting. Now, I've only just thought of this, and quite frankly I should have done it before installing the cam into the clamp. So I'm having to be a little bit clever with using a chisel there to wedge that in place while the glue dries. But that is going to be very good. And I'll just show you one. Here's one I cooked earlier, and that's another little bit of sandpaper, and effectively I've got much better fine adjustment. And on beforehand it wasn't adjusting that finely. It was a all or nothing. So there we have it. You can make a cam clamp, and you can make cam clamp version 2.0. That slips through there. Let's find something to clamp. Push that there, and you have a lovely, fully functioning, brand new mahogany and maple cam clamp. Mahogany and maple. How cliched could a guitar builder get? Anyway, I'll shoot a couple of close-ups of this, and that's really strong, actually. Thank you very, very much for watching. This is Ben Crow with Crimson Guitars. Follow our YouTube videos and you'll see various other tutorials, mainly on how to actually build guitars, but I will be shooting other tutorials on tool making, and at some point I want to make a #1 hand plane and various things like that. If you have any questions, fire off a comment, like the video, share it with your friends, and don't forget to check out my website for a guitar or two that you can buy. Thank you very much.